I have an aunt who was born in Jamaica, never left Jamaica. My father, his other sister, immigrated to the U.S., but she never left Jamaica. She was a beloved giver, a visitor, and she always brought joy when she visited. And I don't know if I told you this story, but on one of her visits, with riding, there's some maintenance. You have to keep your saddle clean and oiled, and your bridles and all the leathers. And so on one visit, Mira is in the end of the house, what we call mother-daughter area. That's where the uh, other kitchen, the bathtub we wash the dog in with the skunk and so forth. And so Lena walks in and says, well, "What are you doing, Mira?" "I'm taking care of my leather." "Well, what are you using?" She says, "Mutton fat." And Aunt Lena says, "That's not what you use." Now, when I was first starting to walk, the first time I heard the name of Aunt Lena was, okay, I'd stand on the paper. My mom would trace my foot on the sheet of paper, mail it to Aunt Lena, and in a fairly short time, shoes would come back made by Aunt Lena. So she raised cattle. She butchered cattle, ate the meat for the family, and sold the rest, the excess, and tanned the hides, made shoes. And she's saying that's not what you use on leather. Mia says, well, what should I be using? Aunt Lena said, raw cow's milk. And Mira says, I never heard of that. And Aunt Lena responded, Mira, did you ever see a wrinkled cow? I thought it would fall down. I laughed so hard. I thought that was a funny retort. I think for sure she was in her 80s the last visit she came to us.
Yeah.
And from Montville, she showed her true colors in a way. Arch, yes. Don't let me forget. Forget what, Aunt Lena? I want to buy a chainsaw. This woman's in her early to mid 80s. Aunt Lena, why do you need a chainsaw? The boys who used to help me now have families of their own. And when I have a job I can't do myself, I have to wait for them. And I understand that. But because I can't swing an axe anymore, I need a chainsaw. I won't forget Aunt Lena. It was one of the things about her that warmed my heart. While we were living in Montville, we made several interesting journeys with Aunt Lena. Let me tell you about the chainsaw first. There was a local hardware store within walking distance of our house in Montville. So on the appointed hour, I drove Aunt Lena to the hardware store. And I walked in with Aunt Lena, and the man came up to the counter and says, how can I help you? And Aunt Lena says, my good man, I'm in need of a good chainsaw. And her Jamaican accent was so thick and so sweet that she's like singing. The guy's face lit up and immediately fell in love with Aunt Lena. And from that point on, he was willing to show us any and everything. Okay, we looked at several. and kind of decided on one. And Aunt Lena thanked him profusely for taking good care of her and making sure she had the right machine. And he just grinned. And she says, "Now, tell me this. With hard use and perhaps some abuse, which parts are most likely to fail first?" Now the guy fell all over himself, putting together a surefire maintenance kit for the sweet lady. And Aunt Lena proceeded to buy all of the recommended parts, paid him, and was so appreciative. She couldn't thank him, and how lucky she was to make the acquaintance of such a wonderful person. And I thought his face was going to split. He was so pleased that he made this little old lady so happy. And to watch her work her magic was just a thrill to me. I mean, she had this guy just eating out of her hand instantly. Come home. All right, now we're home. Arch, can we try this out? Now, Aunt Lena knew I had this pile of logs, telephone poles on the property. So I had a chainsaw. I said, "Sure, Aunt Lena, we can do it." Use the choke and it was perfect. Boom, just like it's supposed to work. Lena picked the saw up and headed off to the wood pile. And she must have cut 3 or 4 logs and came back with a big smile on her face. And he says, "Arch, we made a good choice." I says, "I think so too, Aunt Lena." "Arch," "Yes, Aunt Lena." "What would happen if there was too much oil in the mix?" I said, "Well, Aunt Lena, if you had already started the machine, you could add oil until it would choke out and smoke and stall. If you were trying to start the machine and it was too much oil compared to the gas, it wouldn't start and it would smoke." He says, "I thought that might happen. Can we try it?" "Try what?" "Start it and then add oil till it stopped." And I did that. "Now," she says, "can we do the opposite?" And we did that. And she says, "Just as we thought. Thank you." She immediately took the chainsaw out and started dragging it on the blacktop outside of the garage. "Alina, stop. What are you doing?" "Well, Arch, when I explained to the customs department that my nephew bought a brand new chainsaw and gave me his old one, I want it to look like an old used chainsaw." So it was still sooty. It still had chainsaw. I mean, it was scraped all up. And she was a happy person.